Find us on the web at smacology.42web.io. There you can find our latest episode, or you can support the podcast by following our affiliate links at the top of the page. You can even buy some awesome Smacking Off merchandise. Again, that is smacology.42web.io.
We're here at Commonwealth Stadium, representing for the Kentucky Wildcats, right against the Georgia Bulldogs, right? And I'm live here, and there's fun and excitement going on. I know you can see that. This is Smacking Off, the podcast.
Hi, we're Fiverr, a global marketplace connecting individuals and businesses with freelancers offering thousands of digital services. Graphic design, web development, video editing, e-commerce marketing. You name it, there's a professional freelancer ready to make it happen. Filter your search by the service needed, budget, timeline, and boom! Fiverr provides a list of talented freelancers to meet your specific needs. Always know what you'll pay up front. No hourly rates, just project-based pricing. And because payment isn't released until you approve the work, you can rest assured that you'll be satisfied with the quality and get exactly what you want. Our support team is always available to answer questions or offer assistance when you need it. With the whole world of freelance talent at your fingertips, what might you achieve? Join today and find out. Fiverr. It starts here.
You are now streaming Smacking Off the podcast. You can keep up with our current activity on Facebook at Smacking Off or Smackologists. Find us on YouTube at Smacking Off the podcast. And stay right where you are. More Smacking Off the podcast is headed your way.
Hey, this is Kyle Golick of the Smacking Off the podcast. I'm at the Basketball Hall of Fame. You don't need to come to Springfield, Massachusetts. We got our own Hall of Fame analyst in Dr. Balls.
Dr. Balls is a presentation of Smacking Off the podcast.
Dr. Balls, the state of college hoops.
What's going on, guys?
What's up?
How you doing?
Evening.
Hey,
Welcome
before I forget,
Happy
how do I
Easter.
get one of them Smacking Off the Podcast hoodies?
Oh, I will send you a link afterwards.
Please.
Hell yeah. Welcome to Smacking Off the podcast. We're here with our producer, Doug Phillips. I'm Dr. Balls. We have our key contributors, Ed Scrivener and Sean Devine.
So this may be the latest I've ever watched college basketball in a season in my life.
But ain't it awesome, Doug? All your skepticism has pushed Alabama right to the top.
And I really enjoyed the Purdue-Tennessee game. I mean, I always enjoy watching Tennessee lose and anything, but
Yeah.
it was Purdue was really good, man. I was really shocked, having watched Alabama all year, and they don't have a great inside game. To watch Purdue just at will be able to get on the inside of Tennessee and score untouched a lot of times was just amazing.
And Tennessee had a pretty good roster. They just didn't have an answer for Edie, and the guards for Purdue were creating space. I just can't believe they gave him so many easy paths to the basket from the post up, but they did, and it was still a close game. They had a chance.
The Tennessee fans, they all have it. They've got an answer. It was the officiating.
The officiating was pretty good. The tournament in general.
I seen you talking about that earlier, and I hadn't been paying attention to them, but holy shit. Go to the Tennessee game, and they are on fire. It was definitely the officiating. It didn't have anything to do with the one kid. What was his name? Sorry. Help me out.
Edie.
Yes. Jesus, how did I even forget?
And we know that's a lot of hogwash because Purdue and Tennessee played in the regular season. They played in the Maui Invitational. Tennessee got called for, I believe, 10 or 11 less fouls today than in that game.
Yeah.
And they still couldn't beat, the preeminent big man in the country. The reason why Zach Edey's going to win his second Wooden Award this year. Because not only is he big, but he can move. He's got good moves. He's got good feet. And he makes his shots. I mean, another stat about Edey today, he sat for a total of 33 game seconds today. So it's like, we're going to wear out the big man. The big man didn't wear out today. He carried the mail all day for him. And, 40 points later.
If I'm Tennessee, I'm going to be able to sleep pretty good. If I'm a Tennessee fan watching this game, they went on a run late in the second half. I know it was 7-0 run for sure, and I know they let Purdue score a little bit there and there, but I don't know what exactly the run was. They got pretty close. Well, they tied it up, didn't they? They actually tied it up.
They might even have
They were playing their ass off, but at some point, Purdue had just went a little cold on their inside game, and at some point they just turned it back on.
And I think towards the end of that,
fouls.
What's that?
Edey drew 16 foul calls.
That's what he's great at.
Yeah, I mean, you're 7'4", 290 pounds. The thought is you're gonna have to. They did it to Shaq in the end. The hack to Shaq.
I did see some hellacious acting today. I've seen one guy fall to the ground and nobody even touched him.
Yeah,
and he didn't just fall to the ground. It was animated, man. It was a hell of an acting job.
Is he related to LeBron?
I don't know.
I guess that's one of the guys who knocked the NC State guy down, and then he flopped. Right, and he grabbed his ankle when nobody touched him. All
right. So who hates Duke? Who was glad to see
I
that?
do.
I think I don't hate Duke the way I think Ed hates Duke, but I certainly don't care for Duke, so I wasn't upset to see them lose. But no. I'm not like Ed, who's just giddy right now that Duke is gone.
But they're not that good.
Well, they are a blue blood.
Yes.
They caught a lot of breaks from their draws.
You're just talking this year's team.
It is not a great Duke team. It is a good Duke team.
Yeah. Yeah, they got very fortunate in the Sweet 16 that, Shed turned his ankle, and, that guy kind of makes everything go for Houston, and they only beat Houston by 3. I think if Shed doesn't get that turned ankle, you probably would have seen a Houston NC State game today.
Absolutely.
And you hate to see injuries, but they do happen. Especially a twisted ankle in basketball, that happens.
Oh yeah, and this is the term of the big man, guys, and it's whether or not your big man is able to do it is who's determined who's moving ahead in this tournament. NC State, Burns, they're able to move ahead. He played a great game. Phil Kelsey files out for Duke. They lose, right?
Yep.
Edey plays a great game. They win, right? So, and then you got Alabama. Alabama was able to control their opponent's big men and keep them from dominating the game. So that's what the key.
That Alabama game changed when they got PJ Hall to foul out, because he had kind of been a problem for them when they lost earlier in the year in Tuscaloosa. They got him fouled out with at least 5 or 6 minutes left in the game, and that opened the floor up. Which, when the floor is open, Alabama is deadly, and then that created a lot of shots. Particularly Sears was just on fire. The guy couldn't miss.
He's going to need to do another Jalen Brunson impression against UConn.
Yeah, I mean, if he plays the way he did the last 10 minutes against Clemson, they got a puncher's chance. They really do with that 3-point attack of theirs.
Well, my concern is, can Alabama play with UConn? Yes. Can they play with them for 40 minutes? I don't know.
So far, no team has been able to play with UConn for 40 minutes.
Well, the thing that makes this UConn team special is not only are they very talented and they play well together, they're ruthless.
Oh, they're coach is top notch. I got to give Danny Hurley credit. It's a well
Yep.
coached. The defense is on point. They run good sets. There's lots of effort, and the reason I come to that is when they was interviewing Burns after the game, he was like, "Well, what's happened different for you? You're able to win the ACC tournament, and then went out and go on this 11-game run, and now you're in the Final Four." He goes, "Well, everybody finally made the commitment that they needed to." Well, that's what I'm seeing out of UConn is they've had the commitment all year, and that's why I've been on them all year.
The crazy stat, we all saw UConn just obliterate Illinois, and the craziest stat coming out of that game is UConn only made, I think, 3 or 4 3-point shots in that game. And they got so many points in the paint from so many different. I mean, Klingon was the main catalyst, but Castle and Newton. I mean, like you said about the sets they run, the cuts they make, the crispness of the passing game. They get a lot of easy baskets. They make it look easy, but they move that ball so well in the half court set. Illinois by no means is a bad team. The score looks bad, but you're talking about this is an all-time. I mean, this is a Goliath right now, just like they were last year's tournament. And I went back and I looked at last year, and UConn was a 4 seed in last year's tournament, by the way. And then they bulldozed the field last year, and again they're bulldozing it this year. I don't think they've. I'm looking here. All their wins have been in double digits.
By a lot more than 10.
Yeah. The win over Illinois, that was 25 points. The win over San Diego State was almost 30 points. The closest kind of want to guess, if you want to call it close, was Northwestern, but they basically took their first teamers out with about 5 minutes left.
Because that game was over with 10 minutes gone in the first half.
Right, yeah, I think so. You just hope it's a good game, and if Alabama can make threes, maybe they hang around,
Well, Creighton has the formula to beat them, which is get
you
hot.
Have to shoot over 50% from three.
Yeah.
If you can shoot over 50% from 3-point, you can beat UConn.
I haven't seen UConn play this year. I've gone back and looked at footage from this year because I've seen bits and pieces, but I haven't watched a complete game. And I mean, I'm just taking everybody's word for it. I feel like Alabama's best chance to make this interesting is play the game of their life, and maybe UConn don't play the game of their life. And
that's how Creighton beat UConn. UConn's got 3 losses, all of them true road contests. The first 2 losses were in December. They were, still kind of ironing things out. But then, when the calendar turned, they hadn't lost until they got to Creighton on the 20th of February. And exactly what you said, Doug. UConn was just a little off, and Creighton played literally the game of their lives, made over 50% of their threes. But, I mean, there wasn't until the clock went to 3-0, I wasn't comfortable.
I'm ecstatic to see Alabama in the Final Four, but I ain't expecting anything else here. Anything else that happens here is pure fucking gravy for me.
Yeah, it's first Final Four for a great program that has, a lot of great, they're second in the conference all time in titles, just behind Kentucky. So it's great to see new blood in the Final Four, and that was a great matchup. Alabama and Clemson, they're both trying to get to their first Final Four. Same with Purdue and Tennessee. They were both trying to get to Purdue their second, their first since 1980. But
and Bama lost their best player.
Yeah, not having Wrightsall, that's incredible that they keep winning.
I'm talking about Marshall to the Hornets.
Oh yeah, from last year.
Oh, Well, I'm talking just on the team right now. Is poor Wrightsall keeps having that head issue, but he's a great shooter, and they're doing it in spite of not having him out there.
You look at all of Alabama's teams. under the coach, and this is the one you're not gonna. I mean, if you're just looking at these teams play, a game or whatever, this is the one you're not going to pick to go to the Final Four.
Well, I know last year's team looked like one that would go to the Final Four. I mean, they were loaded.
I think we all did. I mean, that team last year had so much talent, was loaded.
Oates needs a raise for sure because this team definitely is.
He just got one.
Well, he needs another one. He needs another one because this team is definitely overachieving on a high level right now.
He's easily top 5 coach. In the
somebody asked me if you had this to go over, you'd pick Alabama to beat North Carolina, wouldn't you? And I'm thinking if I had this to go over, no, I'd probably still pick UNC because I still don't think this is definitely not his best team. Although I think catching a break, would they get beat by Florida in the SEC championship game, first game? I'm trying to remember.
I believe it was either the first or their second game. Yeah.
Okay, so they got a break there. Definitely helped that they didn't have to go all the way maybe to the final game of the SEC tournament.
Yeah, you say the same about Tennessee. I think they lost early in the SEC tournament, and they
you have to wonder. I mean, I know that nobody actually throws these games. But they don't put all their eggs in that basket of trying to win them when they've already got a decent seed.
Right.
Depends what team it is.
Yeah, but if you go to the ACC tournament, on the other hand, right, now we've got a Final Four team that wouldn't even have made the tournament unless they won the conference tournament, and it took them to another level.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because that was the only way they could get in. But, for Alabama, they already have what were they, fourth seed?
They were either going to be a 3 or a 4 seed for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter.
They were locked in.
Oh, yeah.
And they probably wasn't going to win the SEC tournament either.
Yeah, I mean, those conference tournaments are just weird. We saw a lot of that in the conference tournaments this year. What the guys say, there were 5 bid stealers because of the results from the conference tournaments being.
You put your heart and soul as a 3 or 4 seed. You put your heart and soul into trying to win that tournament, and you still come up short. And then you also go into the big tournament with hardly no rest whatsoever.
Just
Auburn won somewhere harder because there's so much familiarity.
Yeah. Well, look at Auburn. They won the SEC tournament, and they were one and done.
Yep.
They were gone, just like that.
And the big guy from Yale is maybe headed to Michigan.
Hey, a fun fact. So, in Yale's victory, the one victory they had, their band wasn't able to show up. So the host team's band put Yale T-shirts on was their pet band.
Gotta love it.
It was a heartwarming story. I saw that. That was great. That's why I love college athletics. That was very cool. I think that was Idaho's band.
Yes, and my wife is big on academic music, and she's got a doctorate in it, so she had to point that out to me. That was a big deal.
Yeah, no, I saw that. That was really cool of their band to do that for Yale. And the coach said when they beat Auburn, that's the biggest win in Yale basketball history. Yale does not have a great history when it comes to basketball, so very happy for that team.
Not even in their conference.
Right.
What's that conference?
I think usually it's Harvard and Princeton that are usually the top in basketball.
Yeah, and was pretty good in it for a long time too. They're one of the big 5.
That's right, in Penn. Yeah,
until they ran into Michigan State in the Final Four.
So we're going to be doing a midweek Dr. Balls to go into these Final Four games a little bit more thoroughly. But I just want to ask everybody: is everybody feel like Purdue is just going to roll over NC State? I mean, NC State.
No.
The chemistry at NC State is off the hook, guys. Now I know that Purdue is probably better, but I think the Horn is more than a match for the what's that guard Asom or whatever for Purdue's point guard.
Braden Smith, I think it is.
Braden
right?
Smith, he's playing real well, right? But I think that Horn will be a thorn in his side. Horn will harass him the whole game and keep him from getting off. But even though I feel Edey is better than Burns, Burns is a great passer and he's a glue guy. that's going to be a great game. I think Purdue will probably win it, but they're not going to roll over NC State because of the fact that the chemistry for NC State right now is off the hook.
It can go either way.
If we're looking at this on paper, and again, games aren't played on paper. I know that clearly. I'm looking at my bracket, which looks just chewed up. But on paper, the NC State Purdue game right now, you would say, is probably the better of the two games on paper. Just simply because of the right now, you're Alabama, you're kind of playing with house money, but you are playing this Goliath of a UConn team, which, this is March, so upsets happen. So I wouldn't be, if Alabama somehow beats UConn, I won't be surprised.
The irony for me is that the last time, well, we didn't get this deep, but the last time we got deep into the tournament, we did meet up with UConn. I think it was in the Elite Eight, and that was 2004. And it didn't go so well. That UConn team wasn't shit compared to this UConn team, probably.
I think
big center
for Alabama, the strategy should follow the Maryland Terrapin strategy. Be happy you got there for the first time ever. Win the whole damn thing next year.
Well, yeah, Alabama's set up. I mean, this is other than obviously last year we thought they were going to go to the Final Four with the NBA talent they had on that roster. But I mean, what is this? Oates' fourth or fifth season there?
I think it's fifth.
Fifth. I mean, either way, well ahead of schedule. The recruiting is just cranking up. They got a top
when
five.
He retires in 25 years, I don't think one Final Four appearance will be part of his record.
No, you're like we talked about it. We said this guy's going to bring multiple Final Fours, probably couple, if not 3 or 4 national championships if they stay true to his model, which is completely working. It's going to be a lot of basketball success there in Tuscaloosa for sure.
And I enjoy their game and their style, right? It's up tempo, and it reminds me like if you would have watched, say, the Suns and the Nuggets in 1979, and they'd score like 120, 130 points per team, right? And I enjoy that style, but I also enjoy the physical games too. And where Alabama's impressed me is when it's had to devolve to that level, they've met the challenge.
They've just gotten so much better defensively during the tournament than they were in the regular season. You see guys closing out properly, making the extra hustle to get the rebound, both offensively and defensively. Wegu and Pringle have stepped their game up quite a bit. And that's a testament to Oates' coaching. He's like, this is what we need to do to win these tournament games. We knew they could score. Alabama hasn't had a problem scoring all season, but it was going to be on the defensive side, and they've cranked that defense up quite a bit.
They've also got a few guys with ridiculous-looking wingspans.
Oh, they're very long. Yeah, no, they're a problem. Yeah, all these teams are now that you look. Now you're in the Final Four. You got the cream of the crop. They're all very long. All are very long. Pose problems. Like today, that one guy that was on Connect, even though Connect had 37, he missed a few shots that he normally doesn't miss simply because of the length of the Purdue defense.
Oh yeah, that was impressive. The Connect.
Nobody else made double figures though.
He was the only one for Tennessee in double figures, and Purdue only had 2. It was Edey, and I think Fletcher Lawyer was in double digits as well.
That was an interrupt strategy there, Sean, where you let the main guy get off and shut everybody else down.
Yeah, that's very. Yeah, I mean that was kind of going to be and Edey finished with 3 more points than Connect, and it was a very tight game. So which star was going to be a little bit bigger? Well, it was Zach Edey today, but tip your cap. Tennessee played just an absolutely great game, had a great season. And I think as long as Rick Barnes is there, we're going to keep seeing Tennessee, hang around as well.
Even though he didn't have the results that people thought they were in the end, the conference is stronger now than it has been in a long time because there's multiple teams that can contend for the championship and go to the tournament. So it would have been a 4 or 5 bid league just 20 years ago, and so now you've got a lot of bids and teams like Tennessee and Alabama and Auburn's been carrying the conference for a little while. So it's time for Kentucky to step back up again.
Well,
You guys,
Kentucky may be the most skilled team in the conference, but there's so many teams in that conference now that are so physical, and Kentucky isn't.
That's because they're young, and that's what
I understand.
that's what they're reevaluating at Kentucky right now. And Coach Barnhart wants players that'll stay, and he wants a strength coach brought in that's going to get them robust. They're trying to talk Reed Shepherd into staying, but I wouldn't stay. Hey, right now,
all right. So
he's a true.
yeah, you guys hold that thought. We'll be back in a minute.
You are now watching or listening to Smacking Off the Podcast. If you love it, tell your friends about it. If you hate it, share it with your enemies.
It was just a small gift from Mummy and Daddy. One, however, that would spark a bit of an obsession. It started out innocent enough, as these things always do, but quickly lit the fuse to something bigger. Mum and Dad encouraged other activities, but alas, had to sell things almost as fast as they bought them. Friends and family thought it was cute. It's just a bit of fun, they said. It's just a phase, they said. Well, it's all fun and games until your child is 34, still lives at home, and absolutely nothing has changed. These things should really come with a warning label. Buy, sell, eBay.
All right. But guys, back to the SEC. I believe the SEC made a better showing than people give them credit for, even though they had lots of early exits. And I think that if you look at that,
I think they're the second best conference in the tournament.
Yeah, so and Texas A&M even made a significant showing. So in the end, you're looking at two Elite Eight teams, one of which made the Final Four. That's a good showing. I mean, just like the ACC has got a team in there, the Big East has got a team in there, the Big Ten's got a team in there. So the cream of the crop is well represented, in my opinion, and obviously on paper, UConn and Purdue are the cream of the crop.
And the only reason I have them as second, I have the ACC first, is the ACC only had 5 bids, and they got as far as they did with, basically 3 of them.
Right.
Clemson was playing to play into the Final Four, and then you had Duke and NC State playing to get into the Final Four. So just kind of percentage-wise, I had the ACC a tick higher, but otherwise the SEC was right there. The conference that, to me, didn't perform was the Big 12. They kind of fell on their face. Now you could say, well, had Houston not had the injuries, then maybe they're there.
Oh yeah, but they didn't have. If Shed doesn't go down, I feel they would have won that game against Duke. I don't have any doubts about it. And they just they fell apart. They didn't have a solid floor leader for that, and the defense on the perimeter wasn't up to the snuff. And Duke snuck by it, almost made it to the Final Four. So. And I'm glad that NC State beat Duke. They beat them also in the ACC tournament, I believe, once in the regular season.
In the quarterfinals.
Yeah. No. NC State won in their conference tournament, and then today they lost the regular season game with Duke.
Oh, okay. But still, they beat Duke twice in a row.
Yep.
Right? And Duke had superior talent, probably, if you go by the recruiting numbers. But if you look,
no doubt.
I'm just impressed by NC State and how much, how cohesive they are on the court and how well they pass. And I think the NC State, the problem for them is going to be there's such a long wait between games, right? How do you keep energy up like that, right? How do you stay hype like that when you're waiting around, what is it, till Saturday? And then it's just tough to keep that energy up and still stay hype if you're an underdog like them, or even Alabama, right? But of course, you could come into it, and the other team could become complacent during that time period. So you got to have good practices all week, ugly practices.
And then, sometimes teams get freaked out by the vision when they're in those football stadiums.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, shoot with that backdrop. That's an excellent point there, Ed. I like it that you say that. So the teams that rely on a three like Alabama, if they're in a big football stadium, there's the backdrop is way behind it, or it's dark, right, and the backboard is clear. It's hard to shoot, and some people master it, but some people don't.
And they'll need to shoot well.
At San Antonio, you remember when they had the San Antonio Final Four, and they had that problem there. Also, for some reason, you could hardly see. It was like endless, infinite behind one of the goals, and the shooting suffered that whole tournament, the whole Final Four in there.
I remember that. Yeah.
That's an excellent point.
And also,
Another,
you got to worry. Alabama, I mean, they're going to have to get some rest. They won the game in Los Angeles. They come home to Tuscaloosa, and then they're going back out to Phoenix here in a few days. You wonder the travel is going to maybe take a little bit of a toll on them.
they're going to have to travel as quickly as possible, so they'll have a time to get that out of them.
Yeah.
And Nate Oates was on ESPN this morning, and if I'm not mistaken, weren't they already back in Tuscaloosa?
They had to have taken a late flight last night after the game. Yeah. So you got to get those kids' bodies back to right, get them rested, get them on a practice schedule for this week. Yeah, no, it's yeah. I mean, whereas you look at UConn, both their first round games and their Sweet 16 Elite 8 games, they've been able to take a bus from campus to those NBA arenas.
Oh yeah, to Boston. That was interesting. And it was almost like a home game for them.
Oh, that was definitely a home game for me.
Well, I would think Alabama probably fly out, Wednesday?
I think so. I would think Wednesday. Yeah. Maybe even Tuesday, actually.
That's what I would think is Tuesday. The earlier
the better for sure.
Yes, because then you can shake off all the lag and so forth.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think probably
you fly out there Thursday. By the time you have dinner, we'll go to bed. You wake up, damn, game's tomorrow.
Yeah. I think you travel Tuesday to get that jet lag out of you. You wake up Wednesday, you go over, you get the lay of the court and the backdrop and everything, and get acclimated, and then you can start looking at film on UConn.
Oh yeah, and that's the beauty of the tournament. See, is there's lots of film that's out there now, and like you said, with the cream of the crop, everybody's playing well. Most teams are executing well. People aren't making stupid mistakes in general, and when guys are open, they're taking shots that are key. So I love watching it. It's just so good. If you ask me, I know the NBA; those guys are better. If you brought in the worst NBA team there is, they would probably stomp UConn. But the level of execution, I'm just impressed by it. I love this time of year.
But yeah, the reason that what you're saying is true is because it's young men against grown men. So if you took that same UConn roster and put 3 to 4 years on each one of them, might be a different story.
Oh yeah, but the competitiveness of it, it's become spectacle now, and that's why people watch the tournament. I think it's the highest rated TV sports event there is.
But for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so it's so people that don't even care about college basketball get together to watch it. But I love to watch the season develop too, and you start getting trends of it. And guys, I have to tell everybody, Ed, especially Sean, but we've all been right on the trends of this, and we've pretty much picked this from the beginning.
Yeah, I think the only one that we really probably didn't foresee, and maybe two, I would proffer is did not see NC State doing what they did. And I really didn't think coming out of the ACC tournament, I'll use another ACC team. I didn't think Clemson would make it all the way to the Elite Eight. So kudos to Coach Brownlee and the Clemson Tigers on a great season. Their best season since I think 1980.
They have a very good coach.
Yeah.
And we were on them early, but they fell off. So Clemson early on was ranked, and we weren't confident to stay up, and they kind of fell off and regrouped. So Clemson, like I said, it's a hats off to the coach that he was able to get them through adversity and almost get them in the Final Four. So I'm impressed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could have went either way in that game against Arizona, and they persevered and held on to beat Arizona there by 5, and they got to all you can hope for is get to the Elite Eight, and then you have a true bite at the apple to make it to the Final Four.
So hell yeah. And it's going to be a great Final Four. I'm sure that most eyes will be locked on it. So, what kind of ways are y'all going to watch this at home? Are you going to go to the club? Which way you would prefer to watch
I'll
this?
be working at the sports book until a few minutes after 5, and then getting ordering some braised beef egg rolls that they have, and I'm hauling ass home.
Hell yeah.
I'll watch it at home. I like the convenience of my big screen, and the bathroom isn't too far away, and it's not noisy and whatnot. So yeah, I'll be hunkered down at the house.
I wish I was at the event. What about you, Doug? Are you going to be fired up for it? You going to get excited for it?
Absolutely, and I'll be doing it at home just like Devine's going to be doing.
You're not going to go over to the Rammer Jammer or anything like
I'm going.
that?
I'm going to do it where I don't have to drive away from a remote location, and the threat of a DUI just going home from
Sure.
shit like that. It's just it ain't worth it. I don't drink out anymore. That was my 20s.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just easier to hang at the house, and life's peachy.
Yep.
And
Yeah, because if you
like
really
said,
want to watch the
usually
game
I don't
and
like.
enjoy the game and not be bothered, home is
Yeah.
the way to go.
Yeah. And then just the general noise at establishments. I want to hear what the commentators have to say. I do like Bill Raftery and
I do a lot.
and then in the other game, I think we had Steve Lapis was the color analyst, and he did a really great job. So yeah, I like to hear what they have to say, and I don't like to have to read it via the subtitles. That's so.
Yeah,
Well,
and
here next week.
you got before the game and at halftime you've got Sir Charles and those fellas.
I like to hear. Yeah, I like to hear what Jay Wright and Clark Kellogg have to say. At halftime, and Charles as well. Charles is always he keeps it real. He's funny.
He really is.
So I'm
He's definitely
excited.
my favorite Auburn guy.
He's the only one you like from Auburn, I think.
Absolutely, he is definitely. He definitely is.
So yeah, no, we'll be at the house. How about you, Dr. Balls? What are you doing?
So here they're going to have a rock and roll festival on top of what used to be a strip mine like a mile from me, right? So I'm looking where I'm sitting right now at the hill this is going to happen on. And it's going to be Kid Rock and a bunch of country artists. Who knows who all they are. And they're calling it Rock the Country, right? Which just has never went on. I literally live in the middle of nowhere in Appalachia, right? I can't impress that on you enough, right? So on the former strip mine, so I'll be able to sit here and watch a game and have the concert going on. It's probably going to rock this holler.
I
That
just
sounds
want to
like
make sure Doug is not a fan of the guy. I think his last name is Davis that ran back to kick 6. You're not a fan of his?
I don't know who the fuck you're talking about. Don't bring it up again.
a good way to get perma banned.
Like perma.
Yeah, you're all right. Jeez.
Oh yeah. So Doug really smoked pot, and there he's breaking plumb out, man. I ain't hating those. Doug's got good sense. That's why I love him, right? So I come up with some preposterous bullshit, and Doug's like, I don't know if that'll work.
No, I think this tournament has exceeded expectations. Particularly, kind of there was a small din of last year's tournament didn't deliver. I thought it did, but that's because we're diehard college basketball fans, so I don't really care what teams get there. It's the tournament shakes itself out. But the din from the kind of what Dr. Balls mentioned earlier of the kind of they show up every March for March Madness, but they don't really watch college basketball the rest of the year. Was last year, you had FAU and you had San Diego State, and people are, well, who are these teams? And what, well, if you had watched the regular season, you knew those teams were good. So it wasn't a shocker for us diehards. But for the common just shows up for March Madness, I think they kind of have the expectation you're going to have these big dogs in the Final Four every year. And this year it certainly delivered. You have Alabama, who's been under oaths, absolutely one of the top teams in the SEC. Purdue's been beating on the door for a number of years now with Matt Painter in the Big Ten. You got NC State. You got a kind of a Cinderella story, the Cinderella darling out of the ACC that needed to win 5 games in 5 days to make it, and that runs kept going. And then you have the Goliath, UConn, trying to be the first team since Florida to win back-to-back. So to me, this tournament has just absolutely delivered in all facets, and most of the games have all been really great.
Well, I agree. I've been great, man. I'm sure it's a fodder for all kinds of riders. People like it can run this far and keep right, and we like it. Then we can post it on the show. Everybody can talk about it. They can comment and tell us how much we suck. So it makes it all work.
It's the best sporting event in the country, but could be challenged by that 12-team playoff coming up.
So let me just throw this out there, Sean. Your prediction on Alabama upsetting North Carolina, I put it on a reel and it got over 700 views.
I like that.
Oh, that's nice. Great. Yeah, I just had a feeling watching both North Carolina's first 2 games and Alabama's first 2 games and seeing Alabama's defense, go to another level that I hadn't seen in the regular season told me this is going to be a big problem for North Carolina. And I think North Carolina didn't expect the physicality and the 3-point shooting that Alabama had. And, it was a close game, 89-87. So I certainly could have been wrong, but I'm glad I was right. And Alabama, made their shots. If it all comes back to that, if the kids make their shots, they're going to win, because it's simple math. Three is more than 2.
With Carolina and Duke, we don't know how good Shire or Davis are. As coaches, we know they're good enough to keep the programs good, but we don't know if either one of them is ever going to win a championship.
Well, I can tell you Shire is going to be getting close after this recruiting class because they're number 1 in the country, and I think they got 5 stars committed. So I think Shire will get there sooner rather than later. In fact, I think this run that they went on, I know they lost NC State today, but for Duke to get this far, I did not, in my bracket, I didn't have them going this far. I think I had them, I had them losing before the Sweet 16, to be honest. So, it shows you how much I know, but that's a testament to Shire and what he got out of those players for a not great Duke team.
Yeah, and they caught some breaks in terms of teams that lost ahead of their next bracket and so forth. And against Houston, when Houston's main ball handler goes down, so Duke caught a few breaks, and I think they'll be successful in general. But if he recruits like that and doesn't go to the Final Four next year, then they might start questioning. But I think it's early for that. Shire did well. I mean,
this is what his second year now.
Yeah, his second. Well, he takes the team to the Elite 8 in a day. You can't say that it's all Krzyzewski's players, even though there are some, because so many of those transferred out or went to the NBA, right? So a lot of these guys are actually Shire's guys. They're young, or they're players that Shire developed as an assistant there.
Yeah, I was going to say, because before he was the head coach, he was the main assistant for Coach K.
Yeah, so he's developed players, especially big men. I mean, if you look at the run of big men that's been through Shire before he became the head coach, and with Phillips right now being a really sharp player, I mean, that was really the key to the game was Phillips fouling out. So, but he's done a pretty good job. There's just a lot of expectations there. And we're going to find out whether it's about the program or whether it was about Mike Krzyzewski, because Duke had a couple. I think they lost the national championship to Kentucky in '78, and they won it in '86.
No, they lost in '86 to Louisville.
Yeah, they lost in '86. That's right.
Nervous Purvis.
Yeah.
And they so they got close, but they weren't a powerhouse program that was dominant with before Krzyzewski. And but Krzyzewski took them to another level, and obviously he's one of the greatest coaches of all time numerically.
They were absolutely nothing before he got there.
You know, and they
they were kind of they were basically the third team in the ACC because obviously North Carolina was number one,
then you
and
had
then Maryland and NC State were kind of the number two kind of one. I'd put NC State a little higher because NC State did win the one title in the 70s with
We also
David Thompson.
great team. Georgia Tech was also a great team in the 80s, right?
Yep. Bobby Cremins.
And so the ACC was uber competitive, and its only real competition overall as a conference to that was the Big East. So they were dominant conferences, right?
And the crazy thing was when UConn was in the Big East in those early days, UConn was at the bottom of the Big East. They weren't the teams that were taught. It was Villanova, St. John's, and Georgetown in Syracuse. Yeah, those four were the ones that it was. And I think even Seton Hall went to a Final Four before UConn went to their first Final
Seton
Four.
Hall lost to Michigan in the championship in
and Providence
88, 89.
Yeah, 89. Yeah. So
would you say UConn is UConn kind of new to the blue blood?
They're the
ranks?
newest blue blood, but what's incredible about them, and to kind of pivot off of Dr. Balls' point about is it the coach or the program, is that UConn's currently got 5 national titles. If they win this, there'll be 6. So they'll be tied with North Carolina in third, behind Kentucky at 8 and UCLA at 11.
But 3 coaches.
3 different coaches did it. Yeah. That's incredible. That's how you have a program.
I agree. And though Coach Calhoun built a foundation that was fantastic, and that what it did, that his foundation that he built actually sapped St. John's and Syracuse because he was getting the talent from the New York City area that they were before, and they were going to UConn instead of St. John's.
Yeah, no, I one for St. John's, once Carlissimo or Carnesecca, excuse me. Carnesecca, kind of left. That kind of nosedived a little bit. And then the other thing that hurt Syracuse to me is, and it's unfortunate that football and money drives everything, but they're still, to me, basketball wise, and well, you could also say football wise, they're not really a fit in the ACC.
No,
they were a perfect fit in the Big East for basketball. And I think you've seen it. When was the last time Syracuse was in the Elite Eight or the Final Four? I think it's been a minute, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, look at the conference schedule now is also brutal. It's not like they basically made a lateral shift from one brutal schedule to another. So
but you're traveling further now, though, from Syracuse.
I haven't heard a thing about their matchup zone in a while.
Well,
yeah, I think they went away from it now with the new head coach. They don't do the zone anymore either.
The zone was one of their Achilles heels. I mean, overall, it allowed you to be consistent and win 25 games. But when you got in the tournament and you played Indiana and they had a 5.9 point guard that could hit from the other side of the court, you couldn't do nothing about it. I mean, and they just all it took was for one guy to get hot and they'd lose, even though they would beat you in rebounding, on and on and on. So you always had that X factor, is if somebody got hot, they could beat Syracuse, no matter how much talent they had, because of the zone. So he never switched. But he made a great career of it, and I'm sure he'll be in the Hall of Fame, except for some of the questions about him and his coaching staff that were there late in his career.
Yeah, I think he'll get. I mean, he's got the one national championship, which a lot of programs don't even have one. And
oh yeah, that's what happened in '6 with Syracuse and Kentucky in the title, is that Tony Delk was hot, and they just didn't have an answer for him. So the rest of the team was nearly equally as talented as Kentucky. Tony Delk was hot and stopped there for.
Yeah, that was a great game. Yeah, I remember that game. That was an incredible game.
They never changed down the zone. If they'd have went and to something else, they might have stopped that. But on their hand, you didn't want Kentucky running either. But they had a great they had great matchups all the way across the board, except they didn't stop Tony Delk. So the philosophy is stay on defense, and that's what you're going to do. I think it's a bad plan. You need to, because now I can just plan for, well, they're running 2-3 zone or they're running the matchup zone. And I think it hurt Temple, even though I feel that Coach Cheney was a great coach, and he helped a lot of people, and he was a good ambassador for the game. The fact that he stuck with the same defense all the time probably kept him from going further.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's yeah, I mean, so you got UConn, who's like an ascending blue blood
This century.
this century. Sure, sure. But you're looking at the other, like when is Indiana going to do something again?
As
You
soon as
know,
they can beat Purdue again in recruiting, which they haven't done. So Payton out recruited Indiana, and Indiana has a heady stability at head coach. And before they were getting all the guys from Gary and Hammond and around in that area. And I mean, those are unbelievable ball players. And Indiana ruled their own home state recruiting, but now they don't because they haven't been consistent at head coach.
yeah, I mean, so that speaks to your point where, yeah, you do have to have that great coach in play, and you can speak to that at Alabama. I mean, Avery Johnson wouldn't have sniffed an Elite Eight or Final Four, but Nate Oates picked that program up right where it was, and he's got it humming like a machine. I mean, and he's gonna have.
And Avery recruited well.
He did, but the cohesiveness of those teams just were disjointed. Like they didn't play as a team. Nate Oates has this team playing as a team, which is why they're fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoy the style of it. It just puts a lot of pressure on the other team to stay in contact with every player, because every player can possibly jack it up even off the break. So you've got to stay in contact with them all the time, and it's a lot of pressure on individuals, especially physically. And so there's different kinds of physicality. There's the physicality of me pushing you around and getting position, and doing everything I can to keep. But on the perimeter, that's hard to do, and it's a lot of energy expended for me to stay in contact, because guys, the reason they're on the perimeter is faster than you are. So that's the kind of energy that you're going to have to sustain, and if UConn can sustain that though, then they'll shut Alabama down on the perimeter. Be a bad day.
Well, Oates and his strength and conditioning coach must have a great conditioning program, because those guys run for 40 minutes. I mean, they run. I mean, then that's hard to. You could see it towards the end of the Clemson game. Clemson was starting to suck some wind, and that's never good when if your opponent sees you doubled over sucking gas.
And that's when Sears took over, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, what was impressive is they got down 13 in the first half. They didn't blink.
Didn't blink an eye.
They
Yeah,
did not blink.
13 points is literally nothing. Okay, yeah.
But if you've never been to the Final Four and you're playing for that right, it can be something.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the amount of time, though, that was left, and the style that they play, 13 points, Bama can rattle off 13 points in nanoseconds.
Well, they did, because they took the lead before the half was over. It's not like they made a long, slow comeback. They were back in it immediately.
It was like they did a media timeout. They come back. Then they go to the next media timeout, and the game's basically tied. And then after that media timeout, they took the lead and went into half. And I was like, they're probably going to win this game.
Yeah.
Once Clemson lost that lead, I said, yeah. And then the second half, when Clemson can't make free throws in that game, you're not winning that game. You cannot be 50% from the foul line if you want to go to the Final Four.
No,
that's a death knell.
I agree. And Alabama, I knew they'd turned a corner, because in the Grand Canyon game, that was one of the ugliest games I've ever seen. And it was nothing like Alabama style. That was physical. It was, and I just couldn't believe the refs were letting it go on. But the Alabama, they said, if that's what they're going to do, we're going to do it too. And I said, if that's kind of good, if they could do that, I said, then if they have an off night sleep-wise, then they could steal a game.
Yeah, they won that game in a style that's completely not their style, and they still won. That just tells you how great a coach Oates is. I mean, Because,
I
like
agree.
you said, that was a physical old, what do we call it, an old Detroit Pistons style of game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. It was. I was impressed. I was impressed by Alabama's resilience, and I've been impressed with it all along. Down 13 points, come back, take the lead at the half. I don't think they're going to be intimidated by UConn. And if somebody can smack, just like football, if you can smack somebody in the mouth, they might stand back, and we'll see who can do that.
I think the key to the game is going to be for Alabama, if they want to win, would be one, get Klingon in foul trouble early, which is what we did. We got him 2 fouls within the first 7 minutes, so he's going to sit. And number 2, Alabama's front court guys in Pringle and Wade, they cannot get in foul trouble, which they haven't been the last couple of games. So if they can do those 2 things, I definitely think they have a puncher's chance with the ability to shoot the 3 ball.
Yeah, Sears.
They don't want to end up. We the game that we didn't talk that much about, but is Marquette losing to NC State. You go 4 for 31 from 3. You pick the worst potential game of the whole year to have your worst shooting night ever. I was combing through their game. They did not shoot that bad, even back in like November when the start of the season. I mean, it was so uncharacteristic for them. And a lot of those shots weren't even close to going in.
That's what worries me about Bama is that backdrop, because it won't impact Connecticut.
Yeah, right. Because they've been playing in mostly just basketball specific arenas, and now you're playing in the Arizona Cardinals football stadium, which is 70,000. So yeah, they got to get out there early and really get their reps in, and feel out that backdrop so their shooters have a good shooter's eye, which shouldn't be a problem, because I think they said in the post game that Sears one summer shot and made like 15,000 3-pointers in practice. Like, that's crazy. So they're dedicated, and I do think they got a shot. I don't think UConn is just going to roll over them. I don't. I mean, the betting, I don't know what the number is yet. We'll probably get that.
I believe you got the key to it, though, Sean. I agree with the key for Alabama is to get Klingon in foul trouble and to shoot well. And we can't say that the key for Alabama is to take the right shots, because it's Alabama's style to spray it around. So
that's what I think is awesome. They'll shoot it from anywhere, and they'll make it. It's incredible.
Yeah, so
I'm like, that one's from way out there, and Sears is like, I got it.
Well, they got Oates in a week between games in their favor.
Yes.
Yeah, but you can't take away what that other coach on the other side is pretty good too.
He's a great coach, but I'm saying I would not like Alabama's chances at all if they had 48 hours.
No, right. No, I think the extra bit of preparation is going to be good for them, and the rest. They got to get some rest, because they just played 2 just incredibly great games, tense games. Whereas UConn's they've kind of put it on cruise control in the second half of their games.
Now, these are opponents too, and it's a great game from the standpoint that people aren't normally seeing Alabama and UConn play a whole lot, even though they'll probably meet in preseason tournaments next year. That's usually how it works, and they'll. But there's unfamiliarity there, and it's also different regions rooting for teams. So I love the matchup, and then guys, I really like the NC State. Here's what I think is going to happen. One of 2 things going to happen with NC State versus Purdue. I think NC State is going to rough up, just like they did Duke's guards and held them to a low shooting percentage in the second half. I think they're going to rough up Purdue's guards, but Edey may get Burns in foul trouble. So if Burns is a smart player and he's savvy, and I've been impressed with just how unflappable and smooth he is. So if he can if Edey gets him in foul trouble, it's over for NC State. But if he doesn't, right, they may go the other way. Edey may get in foul trouble trying to deal with Burns, and Burns is the best passing big man left in the tournament. And then Middlebrooks, that's one tough son of a bitch, guys. Right? He's an ugly player, and he's one of the keys to the chemistry for NC State.
He's a
And
glue guy. He's a glue guy.
Yeah, and I don't really believe that Purdue has a counterpart, even though I feel that they are more talented overall for sure. But I love Horn as a player. I love Middlebrooks, and Burton's got a smooth game. I mean,
I think you hit the nail on the head, Bob, with your key to an NC State win over Purdue. Is I think NC State's guards have to be much better than Purdue's guards, and I don't think that's a big ask. I think Lawyer and Smith, while are good, but I think NC State can frustrate them. And we know that guards can sometimes win games in tournaments. In the tournament. So if NC State's guards can play out of their shoes and stop Purdue's guards, well, we've seen that formula beat Purdue before because Wisconsin did that in the Big Ten tournament. Their guard play in that game was vastly better than Purdue's. Edey still got his. He got his points, but nobody else for Purdue really got points, and Wisconsin won that game. So I think that's a bit of a formula for NC State to potentially win that game.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be
Their
a help.
guards are physical.
Yes.
Very physical.
All right, so we'll go deep into these games this week, in the middle of the week. I mean, we may not need to do a full hour episode, maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes, break down both of these games. I'll let you guys do that while I listen, because I'm not a basketball guy, but I'm really starting to enjoy it this year.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I'm always an Alabama basketball guy. I always watch just about everything that Alabama or listen to it if I've got to. But no, this year I've kind of jumped out and started watching.
So Doug, question for you: do you if Alabama in the years that they didn't make the tournament, did you not watch the tournament or?
Off and on. It's always been kind of off and on.
There are a number of years where Creighton doesn't make the tournament, but I'm still going to watch because it's like Ed said, it's probably the best sporting event in the country that we got. I mean, it's especially like that one year I fell in love with that. Remember that Florida Gulf Coast Dunk City team?
Mm-hmm.
They seemed like they were dunking everything. I love that team. That team was fun. Who
did they beat in the first round? I know they beat. Was it Georgetown or was that the second round?
Gosh, you got me on that one, Ed. You're stumping the chump here. I'd have to go back and look, but I definitely know they beat Georgetown.
Because that was such an outlier to have a 15 seed dunking all over.
They were dunking everything. They were dunking everything.
Didn't they beat Kansas when Roy Williams was the coach?
Might have. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that run from FGCU, but there's always these little storylines that even if my team's not in, that make the tournament just so much fun to watch.
How about University of Maryland, Baltimore County, knocking off top seed Virginia?
The Golden Retrievers of Baltimore County.
They call that one the biggest tournament upset of all time.
Well, you got Virginia's got to compete with Chaminade.
Oh yeah.
Most people don't know where Chaminade is located.
You mean in Hawaii?
Beautiful Hawaii, yeah. And they're going. I think they were in this year's Maui Invitational because it's either them or Hawaii that plays in it, and then you have the big powers that come out there, and they're quickly put into the
game was in
bracket.
Hawaii, that's for sure.
Yeah, Chaminade hosts that tournament, and so Doug, I'm excited. We'll break it down further. We're going to tell you all the ways that Alabama could win, and everything else going on with the tournament. And I guess we'll do that midweek.
But isn't it fun though to be on the other side, Doug? I mean, usually when you talk Alabama, we're talking football. They're the Goliath, and it's the David they're playing. Now in basketball, they're David against the Goliath. So
absolutely. But hey,
it's
I'm tickled to death that Bama finally has this on their resume. So
Doug, I promise you'll be pumped up the minute you wake up Saturday morning.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm excited too. I'm excited for him. And the Purdue people that they haven't been there in a long time. It's nice to see new blood, different teams in the Final Four, and when somebody that has their team in it and they're excited, you can only feel good for them.
And Sean, just a little shout out to Creighton. Creighton, a lot of people don't realize that their beginnings was a little bit humble, and that this is just an evolution, and it's a good season for Creighton, and that they're right on the edge of breaking through to being where they want to be in the Big East and nationally. So anybody that thinks that it wasn't a good season for Creighton don't know where they came from.
No, I'm
I mean,
pleased.
isn't Creighton one of the best programs that hasn't made the Final Four?
They're definitely up there for sure with Tennessee. Tennessee's right there. Yeah, there's a couple of programs that that
They've
have made
been good for a while.
Yeah, well, they've been good for really the last kind of 25 years. When you got Dana Altman, who now is at Oregon, he got Creighton kind of going in the right direction. And then after him now, Greg McDermott. And I would also add joining a power league, that really helped as well. Versus being in no disrespect to the Missouri Valley Conference. I love the Missouri Valley. I still watch it. There are teams in there that I like. Drake is in that conference. But being in the Big East, being in a power league, just, it helps your recruiting. It helps, expectations. Like, we should be going to the tournament more often than not. So, no, but I'm not upset, losing the Sweet 16. That was a great game against Tennessee. They were better than us. You tip your cap, and it was a fun season. I'm never going to be upset with a Sweet 16 season, though. No, because I remember the years where we were going to the NIT pretty regularly.
There you go.
So,
hell yeah!
All right, guys. Well, we'll do this Wednesday, and we'll be welcoming Landon Beeman coming in. I'm sure Landon will be. He'll be logical about this thing. I know he knows that UConn is a fucking juggernaut.
But you should still be very excited. I mean, anytime it's your first time going to the Final Four, you can be nothing but excited, and it's really cool. I'm happy for all you guys.
Yep.
All right. See y'all Wednesday.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Everyone.
Find us on the web at smacology.42web.io. There you can find our latest episode, or you can support the podcast by following our affiliate links at the top of the page. You can even buy some awesome Smacking Off merchandise. Again, that is smacology.42web.io.
We're here at Commonwealth Stadium, representing for the Kentucky Wildcats, right against the Georgia Bulldogs, right? And I'm live here, and there's fun and excitement going on. I know you can see that. This is Smacking Off, the podcast.
Hi.